What's good, you guys? It is Will here from PSYCHONAUT Visions, signing back in once again, coming at you with another video today. Now, what I want to talk about today is writing and the fact that I have just recently published my third book in a trilogy titled Lost Boy. The book right here, by the way. It just recently came in the mail, and essentially what it's about is my own personal journey. I made a couple of videos when I published the last two, and it's a lot about just growing up and kind of having a place to document my thoughts through the form of writing, through journaling. Essentially, that's where it started, really just journaling, and not being afraid to talk about some of the things that are in the depths, that are really tucked away in the corners of my mind. Because these are the things that, like, let's say the sides of ourselves we don't want to show everyone. For example, things with our sexuality and our sex life. That is something that I feel like oftentimes we can be so afraid, so hesitant to open up about. And essentially what I wanted to offer through these books was a lens into who I am, into sort of the human nature that we all have, that we seem to want to hide or run away from, and kind of discuss it and elaborate on it in an unfiltered sort of manner. And like I said, it's very personal, so it's not like a fiction tale or anything along those lines, but it's sort of just my own way of expressing myself. And that's the thing. I would love for writing to be a part of my career, a facet of my long-term career, but more or less, these books were just the beginning. It was just kind of a way for me to explore, to find that passion, and also, like I said, have a friend. It's like a friend. When I'm typing, I'm sitting there typing on my laptop about what's going on in my life, just sitting there reflecting and thinking about what I'm doing, if I'm doing enough, as the thoughts we all have. And it was this place that I could always go to, this like a therapeutic practice. It's sort of like meditation, and I really do compare it to meditation, actually, because I would get in that state of mind where everything that's not right here and right now is gone. It doesn't exist. It's just such a flow state that it sounds kind of corny in a way, but it's true. It exists. It's so real, man. And you have to figure out a way to find that somehow in your life. And I'm not gonna lie, since I published this, and even while I was in the process of writing it, I wasn't writing too much this past year, because a large part of the journey that it was finding what I wanted to do just to get some sort of money. I needed a job, right? That was the main quest of Lost Boy 3, titled Peace Over Control. I needed a job. It's just like when you're growing up, you're leaving school, you need to figure out what you're trying to do, and that process to find a job took forever. I'd say the real quest began, if you want to call it that, in May, because that's also when I started writing this book. And I would use it to sort of gain that mental clarity, that sense of, okay, I want to do this, maybe I want to do that. What can I do to try and, work in some type of writing position? What other areas would I want to try and focus on? And so, going on Indeed, trying to find all these sort of occupations or these employers that will consider my resume and what I have to bring to the table. And early on, you realize about 99% of them you're gonna be rejected by. And so it's like, well, okay, especially considering the fact that I don't have a bachelor's degree in writing. I'm not some award-winning author or whatever, right? I'm just a very young, I wouldn't say completely inexperienced, but still not very experienced, not very fine-tuned author yet. I'm just kind of going through the motions, in a sense, but that's, I feel like, what's the beauty in what I've been able to do with writing is that, it's just raw, especially the first two, but I would say particularly the first one. Here's the first one right here, A Solitary Expedition Amidst Chaos, where I'm just kind of not having much structure to it all. It's just, here I am, here's my thoughts, here's what's going on in my life. I just want to talk about it. And that's kind of what over time developed into a series, into a more of a well structured and planned out body of work in the second and third books. But that's also why it was hard to find a job, because it's like, well, you don't have everything figured out. You don't have all the accolades and requirements to, fill in any position, just any position, right? So over time, I kind of was hit with the harsh reality that, like, I probably won't be able to just find something with writing, at least not right now, at least not something that I'm looking for in terms of getting paid. And so I started looking on, around me, like what are some jobs I can do? And so one of them, I'm a part of a garden club, so I figured maybe I could try and join a nearby nursery, right? To grow plants, to propagate them, and ultimately sell them. But at the time when I tried to apply to them, it wasn't in season, so it's like I had to wait until March, and that was back in August. Obviously, I'm not waiting that long. So then it's like, okay, well, that's fine, a failure. Then I get this opportunity for an event attendant position where I'm working, for weddings and things of that nature, where I set it up and take it down whenever it's done, and then clean up what have you. And then literally I got hired for the position, and there was a flood at the facility, so that was out the window. And there were a few other ones where I tried. Actually, I got one for writing, a sports writing gig that said where I was getting paid, and I got to the interview and they're like, well, we're not paying writers at the moment. So I'm like, okay. And then, just a bunch of other failures. There was also another one where it was also a nursery, and they just never got back to me. And eventually I found something with dog walking. And that might sound very simple, like it's not, but that's the thing. I wasn't looking for a full-time job. I just wanted something, man. And throughout that entire process to find one, it felt like this game of chess. Like just moving a pawn, moving a knight one way. Like what, okay, I failed this, getting a writing job, okay. Now I'm trying to figure out what I can do. Can I work in a garden? Can I work at any kind of facility, and then you move the pieces around the board, and then eventually you find something. And that position was being a dog walker, and it's actually getting me paid quite a bit. And, basically it's everything and then some in terms of what I was looking for. And it's obviously keeping me busy and occupied as well. And finding that was very beneficial, was very relieving for sure. It felt like checkmate in the game of chess, checkmate. I finally did it. It took me like 5 months. And throughout that time, just failure after failure. At one point I got COVID that took me back for 2 weeks. I literally couldn't move for like a week. And then the next week I'm just trying to recover, right? So it was just 2022 was where I was writing this book for the most part, and it was in large part just finding a job, trying to take that next step, and growing into an adult. And also there's other things as well that go into that, many things like becoming a better driver, becoming a better go-getter, more responsible, getting groceries, little things, very subtle things, but they really make a difference. There's a lot of steps that I've been taking and that I've taken over the last year, also working out 6 days a week, staying active. I'd say I'm probably in the best shape of my life, if not at least since high school when I played baseball. So I've been occupied and I've been growing up, and it's like this journey of self-discovery. I don't even want to call it self-improvement. I've kind of grown to look at that term a certain way, where it's like, I don't feel as if I need to improve necessarily myself as much as it is just my habits, my routines, my day-to-day structure in which I meander through my life. Like, how am I going to approach a certain situation? Am I going to back down? Am I going to say I need a break? Am I going to sit in bed? Or am I going to tackle it? Am I going to say there's no excuses, it's time for me to get up and do this? And ultimately, what this Lost Boy series has been all about is growing from a boy to a man. And with that, it's not to say that I'm at the point where I'm 100% a man and there's no turning back. But more or less, it's basically been the dawn of that process. You know, of kind of realizing I'm getting older, and while I want to enjoy my life, there's some things that I need to respect about the process of being a human and going through life, of being a child, then an adolescent, then an adult, an early adult. And that's taking action in your life, taking accountability, taking responsibility, and working on your habits, reflecting a little bit, trying to be self-aware and understanding what you're doing well, what you can do better. And throughout this whole time, it's been just trying to put one piece together at a time, right? It's not just everything at once. It's just, okay, in the process of getting a job, you know, losing or failing in one thing, trying in the next thing, you know, and it's that over and over. And it's funny because it's like, the reason, or a big reason why I think I've been a little bit hesitant, or not hesitant, I shouldn't say hesitant, but I haven't been uploading as many videos on YouTube, at least on this account, is because my life hasn't really revolved as much around psychedelics over the past couple years. I would say maybe over the past year, definitely like a couple years. Within the past couple years, I've had some intense trips, but the last year, it's been a largely centered around my life, my personal life, and just trying to grow as a man. And I think it's in that where I also realize how much psychedelics have impacted me and kind of set that foundation for me to move forward, for me to start actually taking action, taking accountability, realizing like, okay, you know, I don't have to have everything figured out, but I got to get some of this together. I got to have something going on in my life beyond just waking up, playing video games, sitting in bed, jacking off, doing nothing productive. Just, you know, I have to start taking action in my life. And what for in terms of the long-term picture? Well, maybe I can benefit people in a positive way. Maybe I can try and be the best version of myself, at least just around other people. Provide for a family, and just keep growing as a man. And it's been a ride, but it's like I said, you know, we have these books, got Lost Boy 1 and 2 right here, and Lost Boy 3. You know, it's been about growing from a boy to a man, but at the same time, that is really the very beginning. It's only the beginning. Like, I'm very dedicated towards like trying to make an impact and do something with my life, you know what I mean? And you could call that ego, you could call that pride, but I want to work hard and really test the limits on what is achievable. And that's not even in terms of getting 1 million followers or being rich. It's just, can I work harder today than I did yesterday? Can I up the intensity of a workout? Can I try and give a stranger a compliment? Go up and talk to someone even if it seems uncomfortable? And like the next step for me, I would say, is socially trying to be more of myself around people, at least around like women, I would say. But like I said, you know, speaking of that, I've had a lot of talks about sexuality on this account, and that's a large theme in these books as well. And I think what people don't realize is how much of an effect porn has on society. And again, like, to go full circle here, back to what I was talking about in the beginning, like, we want to hide so much, run away so much from our own nature, from what is deeply rooted within, of sex, of our desires, because they're primitive. They're not something that we can necessarily control, at least their existence isn't. But when you have something like porn that is so in your face, so instant, that ability, that craving, that impulse is only heightened to an innumerable extent that you can really see the effects it's had on people when they're willing to talk about it. You can do a little bit of research on it. It may not be something that's talked about in mainstream media or that you would see just randomly, but it's very much a factor in this world that has impacted many people, and myself included. I was watching a lot of things that were just like instant gratification, instant dopamine. And it's like the more you watch it, the more you want. So whatever video you were watching, it's not enough. You got to go deeper. It's this continuous lust for dopamine. And you think it's a lust for human contact and sex, but no, it's really just this dopamine rush, through porn at least. And so I really got to a point where I was objectifying people quite frequently, and questioning if I was straight, questioning if I was gay, questioning if I was bisexual, questioning all these things. And maybe there will never necessarily be a specific answer, but nonetheless, I've been away from porn for about, I don't even know exactly, but I think about 6 months. And so that's definitely been a big improvement for me. And I don't want to be overzealous with that, because I know it's something that can just end. Like, I'm aware of the fact that I'm capable of making a mistake and returning to that square one or ground zero or whatever you would call it. And so I just kind of want to stay as disciplined, focused, appreciative, grateful as I possibly can, and just try, even though it's nearly impossible, try to love every second I get, and really acknowledge every second, acknowledge where I'm at, and appreciate life. That's the goal. That's the mission. Just appreciate it and work hard, love those around you, and explore. Don't be afraid to ask some questions. Don't be afraid to acknowledge what lies in the crevice of your mind, and ultimately just keep moving forward. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As I mentioned, Lost Boy 3 has been released. It's available on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description here. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you as always for tuning in. So Will from PSYCHONAUT Visions, signing out.